Hi beauties, it's me, Sarah Burns, ritualist, seer, and soul physician. And I want to acknowledge Mabon, this fall equinox today here in the Northern Hemisphere, where we are physically reaping the benefits of the year. So it's harvest season, kind of starting to pull in the potatoes and some squashes and just those plants that are going to really keep longer and fortify us, hopefully, through these long winter days to come. And so, for any of you who don't have a farm or are tending the soil in a very visible way, it's also a time of harvesting from our experiences and really exploring, like, how did we plant seeds that have got, like, what have we tended to get to where we're at now? What has survived? What connections are alive? What has borne fruit from the ways that we've expressed our needs and our desires and our dreams and our goals? And maybe what's fallen short, like maybe there's areas in your life where you still feel like, oh, I really didn't give it enough attention this year, and taking note of that. So one fun ritual that is edible is to find a squash. And this one we grew at our farm, Orchestra Farm. And so I see that a squash, and it's kind of a plant that you plant it, and it has to like cultivate throughout the whole growing season. So when you're having all the young saplings and the sprouts and going through summer, the squash is this like steady plant that's going to kind of hold the wisdom of the season within its body, because it takes a lot of focus and attention and time to bear a squash. And I think with that same kind of time that goes into it, so does it take longer for them to actually rot, which is cool. So the ritual, if you choose to accept, is to find a squash that is from your bioregion. So if you haven't grown one, go to the farmer's market, reach out, see if you have any friends that have a squash that you can exchange for or bring into your life, and hold that squash and kind of having, like, starting with a bit of prayerful reverence and also listening. So allowing yourself to kind of just drop into, the weight of the squash and the connection that this squash has to the season that just came, and allow yourself to start tracking, going back to, the summertime, like what was happening this summertime, like just taking note of these experiences that you've had, and starting to think of what are some of the highlights, what are some of the moments and the connections or the ahas or even the breakthroughs. Sometimes going through challenges can be a highlight, because the other end of it is us feeling liberated from the constraints that challenge may have felt us suppressed under. And so just letting the squash kind of hold those lessons in it, that experiences in it, and then when you're ready, cook with it. And so put together some sort of soup, and the process of you eating the soup and maybe even not even sharing. Maybe this is just going to be your own squash soup. Maybe you want to like actually preserve some of it, kind of like for those like preserve a placenta to eat later. It's like that you're kind of taking a piece of that medicine of the year and having it so that later down maybe you can put it into some soups. I like to put them into ice cubes. And when you're eating this soup, just letting this whole process be like a somatic and kind of like a sensorial integration of this last year. So coming up to Samhain, which is this next month, so it's like which is kind of New Year, it's the end of this cycle that we're in. We'll have a little more time to just go over the last year, but just considering, like, hey, what is it that my body is needing to integrate more wholly more fully into itself, to acknowledge what has occurred and to give it a little more space. Because what can happen in the summer is that there's so much happening, it's buzzing, it's go time, that sometimes we don't actually have the space to just slow down and be with these experiences or these aha moments or these breakthroughs or these stickinesses. It's almost like you have to keep going and going and going. And so we're starting to slow down, and we're letting the soup kind of help us take a moment to slow down and be with them and honor that process of what has happened and what you've experienced. So that is my invitation to you to make a soup. It could also be with potato if you want. Maybe a garlic, but that's going to be more, those were harvested a bit earlier, so it's not as equinoxy. And thanks for watching. All right. Happy harvesting.